The Amazing Life of Mozart. Once upon a time, in a city called Salzburg, there lived a little boy named Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Wolfgang was not just any boy. He was a musical genius. He loved music more than anything else in the world. He was born on January 27, 1756. When Wolfgang was very small, only 3 years old, he heard his father playing the piano. The music was beautiful. Wolfgang wanted to play too. He climbed up on the piano stool and started pressing the keys. His father, Leopold, was amazed. "How can my little boy play like this?" he wondered. Leopold was a musician, and he wanted to teach Wolfgang everything he knew about music. He showed Wolfgang how to play the piano. Wolfgang learned very quickly. By the time he was 5, he was playing songs that were much harder than what most kids could play. Wolfgang loved to play music, but he also loved to write it. He would write little songs on pieces of paper. His family would listen to him and clap. They thought he was a special boy with a special talent. One day, Leopold had a great idea. He decided to take Wolfgang and his sister, Nannerl, on a tour around Europe. They traveled to many cities like Vienna, Munich, and Paris. Wolfgang played music for kings, queens, and lots of people who loved music. They were all amazed by his talent. When Wolfgang was just 6 years old, he performed for King Louis XV in France. The king and the queen were so impressed that they gave him gifts. Wolfgang was so happy. He loved making people smile with his music. As they traveled, Wolfgang played many instruments. He played the piano, violin, and even composed operas. An opera is a special kind of music that tells a story. Wolfgang loved telling stories through his music. He would spend hours writing notes and creating beautiful melodies. One of Wolfgang's favorite things to do was to play music with his sister, Nannerl. She was very talented too. They would practice together and make beautiful music. Sometimes they would play for their family, and everyone would dance and sing along. As Wolfgang grew older, he became more famous. He wrote many, many songs. Some of them were big symphonies, and others were little pieces for the piano. He loved to create new music. His heart was always full of ideas. But being a musician was not always easy. Sometimes Wolfgang had to work very hard. He had to travel a lot and spend long hours practicing. He also had to make sure people paid him for his music. There were times when he didn't have enough money. But Wolfgang never gave up. He loved music too much to stop. One day, Wolfgang decided to move to Vienna, a beautiful city where many musicians lived. He wanted to be the best composer in the world. In Vienna, Wolfgang met many famous people. He played music for the rich and the powerful. People loved his music, but sometimes, not everyone liked his music. Some people thought it was too different. But Wolfgang didn't care. He knew in his heart that his music was special. He kept writing and playing. As Wolfgang became more successful, he wrote some of his most famous pieces. One of them was called The Magic Flute. This opera is about love, adventure, and magic. People loved it, and it became one of his best works. Wolfgang also wrote beautiful symphonies, like Symphony No. 40. The music was full of energy and emotion. People would listen to it and feel happy, sad, or excited. Wolfgang could make them feel all sorts of things with just music. While he was busy creating music, Wolfgang also fell in love. He married a lovely woman named Constanza. They had several children together, but sadly, not all of them lived. Wolfgang was very sad when he lost them. But he continued to find comfort in his music. Even when things were tough, Wolfgang never stopped composing. He wrote many wonderful pieces, and his music brought joy to many people. He was not only a great musician, he was also a wonderful friend and family man. One of his greatest works was the Requiem, a special piece he wrote for people who had passed away. It was very beautiful and touched many hearts. But sadly, Wolfgang became very sick while he was writing it. He worked hard, but he could not finish it. On December 5, 1791, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart passed away. He was only 35 years old. The world was sad to lose such a brilliant musician. But his music lived on. People continued to play his songs and tell his story. Today, we still listen to Mozart's music. His melodies are played in concert halls around the world. People of all ages love his beautiful tunes. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart may have been a small boy in Salzburg, but he grew up to be one of the greatest composers in history. His music inspires people even today. And that is the amazing life of Mozart, a boy who turned into a musical genius and made the world a better place with his songs.